Hi, I'm Milton Rendell and welcome to Real News Friday. Another interesting week and another interesting analysis of what's been happening in our current marketplace. Speaking to our Hills officers, I understand that they're certainly getting an increase in inquiry throughout their home opens and also overall online, etc. So the interest in the Hills has certainly been on the improve, and we know coming into February they can be very busy. In fact, February is one of the busiest months in our Hills offices, yet most people would have thought the opposite, being a drier time of the year. But so if you are thinking about selling, talk to our Hills officers because things are starting to happen. Getting back to the Midland and surrounding areas, it's been an interesting last 12 months, and as I've said before, we seem to see small improvements in different areas. One of the real interesting things that's a trend that we're now seeing, we've had probably three different phases in terms of our market in the last probably 7 or 8 months. At one stage we seemed to have the marketplace where sort of the 550 and above was going quite active, and then we had the opposite and we were sort of in the lower end of the market where it was sort of the 350 and below was moving. In the recent weeks we're seeing a combination of all types of market move, and we're starting to see a shortening in stock in certain parts of the marketplace. So particularly sort of the middle upper end, we're seeing a smaller amount of stock in the marketplace, but we're certainly seeing more activity throughout all the markets. Now, what causes that? Once people upgrade and downgrade, so people are going to be able to move from one market to another. So it has to be a balance between each part of the market. So we're starting to get we had the activity in the middle part, but there wasn't quite the stock, I suppose, that would accommodate the move up or whatever. So that buyers look around at different patterns. And what we're seeing is just sort of a bit more of a balance into the middle market, which is what we need, because the middle market is probably the most active overall, because that's sort of the average person, if you like. And we're seeing more movement through that. So, but the inquiry for the middle market is certainly on the increase. So from that sort of 350 through to 550, certainly we're seeing an increase. So that influences areas like Swanview, Greenmount, Helena Valley, Darlington, Guildford to a degree, all these different areas. There has been sort of like a shortage of stock that I've talked about, but certainly if you are thinking about selling, there is a much higher demand in that middle market than we had previously. So in other words, we're getting interest in all levels. So that means people are moving around, which is very exciting for all of us, because what that means is we could end up with a much more balanced market going throughout 2020. Hopefully that all made sense. All the best, and if you want to know more, go to realestateplus.com.au.